We're about to get started. Good morning. Thank you for joining us for the third and final day of our semi-annual series titled, You Have a Contract, Now What? We kicked things off on Monday with a live presentation on vendors' rights and responsibilities under the Business Opportunity Act. Yesterday, we did a deep dive on navigating the compliance requirements of the County Business Enterprise Program, which is enforced and implemented by the Office of Economic and Small Business Development. Today, Broward County's Construction Management Division, or CMD, will discuss the types of contracts managed by that agency, the general expectations and requirements for these contracts, as well as some best practices to help things go more smoothly when you're awarded a contract with that agency. My name is Donna Ann Knapp. And with that, I'm going to turn things over for part 3 of our 3-part series. Today here with us is Assistant Director Jeff Thompson and Contract Grants Administrator Senior Rachel Davidson. Jeff, Rachel.
Good morning. Whether you're joining us live or on tape, we're happy to be here today to present some of the key elements to a successful design or construction venture with Broward County. In particular, our vertical construction processes. My name is Jeff Thompson. I've been the Assistant Director for many years now at the Construction Management Division. I'm 18 years with the county. I'm joined by Rachel Davidson, who is essentially the hub, the manager of most of the contracts in our office, and is very familiar with the processes and the experiences that you need to have and be aware of before working with the county on a contract. Next. Excuse me. Our division's intent on delivering high-performance buildings rooted in thoughtful design and conscientious construction. We are responsible for, as I said, most of the vertical construction for the county, except for a few other agencies, which we'll talk about in a moment. But we utilize many forward-looking technologies, including building information modeling, LEED, well building, and sustainable and resilient approaches, all of which are delivered in a transparent manner, which means that it takes time to do our projects. To ensure our citizens that their funds are being used effectively and efficiently, to be able to deliver long-term facilities that we can be proud of and that can serve the public need for years to come. Our typical projects run 3 to 5 years at a minimum, and that is because we have these processes in place. Many people wonder why it takes so long to build a public building. It is intended, actually a big portion of that is that transparency, that ability to question, that ability to be participating freely and openly in obtaining projects for the county. And as a result, it takes time. We are one of 8 divisions in Public Works, and we focus primarily on the horizontal, which the others primarily focus on horizontal construction. But our goal is to always end up with a building we can be proud of. We cross that checkered flag. We want to make sure that we have award-winning buildings, and again, that are not only efficient, but look to the future needs of Broward County. Next. At construction management, we direct all the design and construction of county facilities except for the port, the airport, parks department, and the transportation department. We build courthouses, county agencies, the offices for all of them, our general government offices, of course, many of the health care facilities you see around, the libraries and cultural centers, fire stations, convention centers, which we have several large projects ongoing at this time, laboratories, and other county building facility needs. Next.
Hi, good morning. So we have different types of agreements for consultants. First, we're going to start with consultants on this, then switch over to contractors, and then start merging them together sort of through the process of our projects. So the standard county form is the BCF 202, and then we also have one for continuing term agreements, and we always use the Florida state statute for everything we do through the CCNA. Next. So there's two types of consultant agreements. There's fixed agreements and also continuing term agreements. And both agreements are based upon the BCF 202, the Broward County form that we just had on the previous slide. The fixed agreements are for a single project with a construction value greater than $4 million. The design fee, the scope, the schedule, they're all negotiated upfront in fixed agreements. Since the fee is determined up front, the CBE percentage is also established in the beginning of the agreement prior to the execution of fixed agreements. Anytime there's an additional service, they're issued through an optional service, work authorization, or an amendment to the agreement, which we'll discuss further. Continuing term agreements, on the other hand, sort of the same, a little bit different. So those consist of multiple projects with construction values less than $4 million. The projects are assigned through work authorizations with the same specific scope, schedule, and fees for each particular project. Additional services are issued through amendments to the work authorization, which we'll also discuss. Each continuing term agreement has a dollar threshold. There's 4 different continuing term agreements that Construction Management Division oversees. The first is the comprehensive AE services, which may include full design and construction contract document development through an entire construction project, including phases from pre-design all the way through warranty. The construction cannot exceed $4 million on the AE agreements. The second is reports and studies, which may include analysis or studies of facilities such as a 40-year building inspections and site assessment reports. Each individual study cannot exceed $500,000. The third is a work of a specified nature continuing term agreement, which may include master plans, commissioning service, and even special inspections. The fourth is the BIM, VDC, and laser scanning, which may include 3D massing models for new construction or major renovation projects. Next. The procurement for the 2 types of consultant agreements begin with an RFP process through the purchasing division. Selection of a consultant is always a qualifications-based selection process through the Consultants Competitive Negotiation Act, CCNA, the Florida state statute. Price is never a part of the initial selection for consultants. Once a consultant is selected for the agreement on both the fixed and continuing term agreements, maximum billing rates are negotiated and inserted into the agreement. The maximum billing rate includes the position titles for the firm, maximum hourly rates for the duration of the agreement, and also a multiplier. The multiplier is based on a FAR or a safe harbor rate of 2.31. If the consultant or any sub-consultants are anticipating to provide a FAR, they must have it readily available prior to the negotiations. As stated before, a fixed agreement has a value determined prior to the agreement execution, which establishes the CBE goal with a dollar value. A continuing term agreement has sort of the same way. So they do not have a dollar value though prior to the execution, since they consist of work authorizations for multiple projects throughout the duration of the term of the agreement, which is typically 5 years. The maximum billing rates are used when negotiating each individual project through work authorizations. Since the continuing term agreement fee is not established when the agreement is executed, a CBE goal percentage is established instead. Consultants, this is very critical, consultants must use the team of sub-consultants listed in their agreements. If additional scope requires a new sub-consultant, the consultant must request approval from the contract administrator to add them to the agreement. The consultant must provide the firm's credentials such as resumes and company brochures, and also complete the maximum billing rates, which will be negotiated and modified into the agreement. Next. All right, so next we'll review some of the best practices for consultants to ensure success within the county. Early in the project, starting with developing the scope of work, throughout negotiations and into the pre-design phase, consultants must ask the county for all existing information they may have, especially for renovation projects. If there's missing information, consultant must seek solutions between their team and also the county. Asking the right questions will eliminate assumptions, which only leads to future problems. Although We require a proposal prior to negotiating a project. The agreement and the exhibits, including the scope of services and schedule, and also attachments such as the BIM requirements, will contractually take place of the proposal. It's very important to include all scope from the consultant and sub-consultant proposals into the exhibits for fixed agreements and work authorizations. As Jeff was explaining, the county is a long-term owner of their facilities. It's very critical to provide design excellence. During design, consultants are encouraged to exceed code minimum standards and use county standards. Early in the design, please engage with the HJs and utilities such as FPL. The consultant must design to the budget established by the county and must notify county they are unable to do so and advise why. The county expects deliverables to meet requirements for each phase. QA/QC is critical and consultants must review the scope to confirm the deliverables are complete. Consultants' coordination with sub-consultants is expected. Next.
Thank you, Rachel. And I guess just to put a point on that, I can't stress enough how important it is for a consultant to understand their role in coordinating and communicating with their sub-consultants. We seek those types of consultants that look at their project. They're not pigeonholing themselves into a single focus, say just architecture or just engineering. We're looking for those folks to work in a team manner. And so some of the things you've seen us point out as ways to ensure success for the county are maybe different than what you currently do in some of your other projects. Hopefully they are a part of what you typically do. And if you do and you're seeking work with the county, please let us know when you're applying for work for the county. As I said, this is a qualifications-based selection for consultants. And so what we look for are well-qualified and team members that are willing to participate in a manner that's going to lead to the ultimate success for everyone involved. But bidding and negotiations, while they're a relatively small portion of the overall time frame, they're critical to the success of our project. Answers to the RFIs that come during bidding are incredibly important. Depending upon the complexity of the project, sometimes several RFIs are generated by the bidders. We look at these as positive opportunities. We look at these as ways to improve the consultant's documents, to find loopholes that are going to only cause all of us more time and money during construction. Change orders slow down the process for everyone. They require a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of back and forth. Their potential for disagreement is high. So as many times as we can, we like to seek ways to solve those early. For this reason, we also don't post our projects for bid until they've been through the first round of permit reviews. And the reason we do that is in order to, again, ensure that we reduce the number of change orders. I don't think I know of a contractor that truly enjoys change orders other than those who may underbid the project. But if they're really trying to get the project done quickly, efficiently, and make as much money as they can in the process, which we are fully supportive of, change orders are a drag on their ability to do so. And I think every consultant can agree that the time taken during construction to solve those issues at the last minute is also not welcome. So if you can scroll down a little bit. So we have, I think during construction administration, it's important to note that the county is deeply involved. We have engineering technicians that visit the site and engage project manager at the very least. We seek consultants that provide clear, accurate OAC meetings, owner, architect, contractor meeting notes, review the work in the field and make sure that conforms with their design intent. And we include MEPs and any other sub-consultants you have that are specialty subs. When we're going through negotiations with you, we'll bring that forward. We'll say we want to have that involvement. So we're not looking to find problems after the project is done. We seek to solve them as they occur or as they show themselves, or any misunderstandings between the documents and what gets built. We ask you to issue field reports with photos, provide a timely review of pay applications. The county is intent on paying on time for all pay applications and invoices for the consultant's work. So this will include pencil reviews that we typically have after an OAC meeting as soon as the pay app is prepared. And then we try to turn those around in a very short period of time so that the subcontractors are paid and the contractors are paid. Everyone can move on and move the project forward. We ask that any request for proposals be issued seeking change orders or provide an architect supplemental instructions. So we have those documented. And if a change order request is offered by a contractor, we seek the consultant who will review and analyze those. Not only are they appropriate, but also to understand whether the costs are fair and reasonable. And of course, there would be, we expect backup with change order requests, so those would also have to be reviewed. And of course, the other, and I think instructional piece here that maybe we do a little differently, which is we use BIM in our projects wherever possible. Building information modeling is also embraced by many contractors and their subcontractors as well. During reviews for pay applications, we expect our consultants to review as-builts on a monthly basis to make sure they're being kept up to date in a timely manner, as well as the BIM markups that may be done in a computer. So we may request sit down with the BIM specialist for the contractor to see what has been revised and changed to demonstrate their acknowledgement of this requirement. Next. So how do we find our contractors? Well, we have two primary methodologies that we follow. We have either competitive bid, which we use our BCF 170, which you'll see in a moment. We can do design build or the managing general contractor agreements. I think what's important to note is that the managing general contractor agreements are qualifications based, and we then, which leads to a negotiated GMP. The managing general contractor we bring in for pre-construction services, especially on our larger projects. So projects in excess of $4 million, $10 million typically for managing general contractor will be involved. And competitive bids for the BCF 170s, those go through purchasing division as well. And of course, both of these for the MGC services, if we do a public-private partnership, or any design build or development services, RFPs are issued for those. So hard bids are issued through purchasing, and any of the RFPs that come out of our office are for these types of the latter more complex approaches. And we generate those. One of the things I think it's important to note is that we have an evaluation committee in the process, and that's what the EC, little gentleman there in our image, means, is that is a group of people selected for their knowledge, their interest, and their backgrounds in the area of expertise. And they select the firms from the pool of respondents. So once we move forward and we have those folks in place, we negotiate fees, we negotiate the way to move forward, and we establish what the GMP will be at a tentative basis, move through the design process in which the managing general contractor is a very large portion. We then bid and negotiate in an open manner the process, the contracts and the documents to end up with a buildable solution. And then of course they construct that. Next. So safety working in a county building is of paramount importance for us. So a hard bid agreement, we'll talk about what we do for badging too in a few minutes, but working in a county building is very important, and we have some special concerns in that manner. But here's just the cover sheets on our typical agreements. They don't look a whole lot different from here, but the content is different. Let's go next. So we have, as I said, the competitive bid, which is based on the Broward County Form BC, Broward County Form 170 or BCF 170. And the scope of work is identified in the contract documents. The contract documents, it's important to understand, includes a large number of documents. All the purchasing and bidding documents are a part of your construction set. the agreement itself, drawings and specifications, project manuals, warranty requirements, addenda, anything that comes out, of course, during those RFIs, of course, will show up as addenda or amendments. And the project duration is established by the county. If you know the duration of the project, it's our expectation that you're also figuring in potential escalation into your pricing to the point of where you're going to buy these contracts out. The competitive bid, I guess I should tell you, is you work on behalf of the county. You're working directly for the county. You deliver a final closed bid, a schedule of values, and a critical path method project schedule. The qualifications-based managing general contractor agreement is, again, a qualifications-based selection. So your previous experience, your history, your references, all are highly valued. The MGC fees are preset by the county most often for the actual construction and or negotiated. We have open subcontractor bidding. So you will be asked as an MGC to select or find at least 3 bids in each section or division for each product. MGC works on behalf of the county in a collaborative manner. This is as close as we can come to a IPD or integrated project delivery. We don't share financial risk, but we do try to develop a team environment where we work with the consultants and the contractors during design so you fully understand the project when it goes to bid. And the guaranteed maximum price is then negotiated for construction with the agreed upon schedule. Next. So to ensure success with the county during construction, not unlike the consultant, there are certain things we really look for. Obviously, supervising and managing your subcontractors. This is a critical, it sounds basic, but it's a critical portion of your job. Establishing schedules to meet the county requirements and maintaining them, giving us look-ahead schedules. Managing all the daily operations on the job site, having people on the job, a superintendent and or others as needed to ensure that the project is being delivered as expected and that the project is moving forward. A contractor who is using best practices responsibly meets the required deadlines and provides construction quality control. We don't expect the contractor to see everything. That's why we hire other folks to come and look over your shoulder. But as we identify things, we hope that you will then address them immediately before they become expensive to change. They manage the budgets and the records for the project. They collect, organize, and timely route all the billing. And I can't stress this enough either, that getting pay applications in a timely way, on a regular manner, ensures not only that you will be paid for work you've undertaken and completed, but also for the satisfaction of your subcontractors, that they know that they can rely upon that billing each month. They also maintain and manage safety protocols on the project site. And we spoke about this earlier. You saw some on the GIFs that maybe are not the ones you want to emulate, but we do seek an active safety officer very often on our sites, especially in projects where you're working on in occupied buildings. And you're the primary source of communication with the construction team. You thoroughly review the supplemental instructions from the architecture engineering consultant when they come in and incorporate them into the work. And you provide utilities on the site, secure the grounds and the project. Next, please.
All right, congratulations. You have a purchase order. So for both consultants and contractors, a notice to proceed or an NTP will be issued prior to starting any work. The official notice to begin will be described in the NTP, and each NTP restates completion deadlines per the project schedule, and it's which is established in the agreement, the work authorization, or the contract. So for consultants, an NTP will be issued at each phase of the project, which is established in the fixed agreement or the work authorization. Contractors will receive an NTP at pre-construction and preliminary activities and construction. Once the first NTP is issued, the project manager will schedule a kickoff meeting. They may also issue this first NTP at this meeting. The kickoff meeting is the initial start of the project and includes the entire team. This meeting allows the county to reinstate goals, establish lines of communication, and identify county expectations for the project. Overall, this meeting will establish a teamwork environment. Next. For both consultants and contractors, monthly invoicing and payment applications must include the following for prompt payment, as Jeff was stating previously. So as you can see here, it's a description of each phase, the fee for each phase, the percent completed or the quantities, the amount earned, the amount of the prior fee that was invoiced, the current fee for this pay app, the subtotal of elements, reduction of retainage, which will be stated in your agreement or contract, the total invoice amount, and the monthly utilization reports, which were discussed in yesterday's presentation. In addition to this, the contractors must also include the updated progress schedule, the amount of change orders, the releases of liens from prior pay applications, the consent of surety, the WIC and CAP documents as discussed in yesterday's presentation as well, certificates of payment to the subs, schedule of values, the statement of wage compliance, and also general condition receipts for MGCs. Next. So if additional services are required for consultant agreements, so we're going to go back to just consultants for right now. So if additional services are required, an amendment or optional service work authorization must be authorized prior to initiating any work. For fixed agreements, additional tasks are issued through optional service work authorizations. This is a rather quick process since the optional service fees are established in the agreement as a total lump sum that we may pull from for this agreement. And there's a line item on the agreement's purchase order, so we do not need to include time to go to purchasing to receive a purchase order. Additional time or substantive changes in scope are issued through an amendment to the agreement. Both an optional service work authorization, which requires a director of purchasing or board of county commissioners execution. I apologize. This is a longer process due to the time allotted for county execution, and we must also submit to purchasing for a PO. Both the optional services and amendments require complete proposals to be submitted to the consultant or by the consultant. We negotiate those and execute them on the appropriate county forms. CBE goals may be modified if an increase is 10% or more. For continuing term agreements, additional scope is issued through an amendment to the work authorization. The process requires a complete proposal submitted from the consultant as well. We negotiate and execute it on a work authorization. The CBE goals, they may be modified if the aggregate of all increases is 10% or more. Next.
So change orders. We really love change orders. If you haven't gotten my understanding from the previous conversation so far, change orders are a necessary evil. We recognize that not everything is contained in the documents. We understand that there are field conditions and things happen in construction. While we don't relish them, we do recognize their need, and we work with you carefully to identify what the value of the change order is and what our responses will be through our consultants and other professionals. So therefore, it's important to note that in our contracts and our agreements, and this is kind of a nuance, change orders are only described really as change orders or unilateral change orders. In reality, there are 4 types of change orders. And so I want to take a moment and talk about each one. The regular change order, which is also called a delegated change order, is one of the change orders that you might produce as a contractor, and you've reviewed it from your subcontractor. They said, gee, we've been asked to provide, there are outlets that you're expecting that we don't have on the drawings. We need to provide this price. It's $1,000, let's say, change order. And the backup will be provided. You'll look at it. You'll say, yes, this is reasonable, fair and reasonable. You'll negotiate it if you need to with your subcontractor and present it to the county. We all agree that the value of the cost of that change order, the duration of time, if there's additional time, if it affects the critical path, we all agree upon that and we finalize it. So that is the most common change order. And we can do that relatively quickly. We can provide several change order requests on a single change order. The estimated change order is when we go through that same process, yet we really can't determine, or there are unknowns in the solution to the problem that have to still be identified. And so we can't yet identify what the total value of the change order is going to be, but we can agree on a reasonable amount that's maybe less than what you might be expecting. And perhaps you ask for 20,000, we say it's going to be 18,000. But at that point, it provides you, it goes into your contract. It's an estimated change order, which will then later be reconciled. And the estimated values are established, but you can invoice against those as the work progresses. When the work's completed and we can identify what the total cost is, you'll provide the valuation and of the actual change order, and you'll provide the backup, which justifies that. We then come to an agreement and we issue what's called the reconciled change order. If all of those three processes fail and we cannot come up with an agreed upon value or duration of the change order, then the county has the opportunity, according to our agreement, to issue a unilateral change order, which doesn't require the contractor's signature. It simply instructs the contractor to complete and execute the work in a timely manner without disturbing the rest of the work that's going on. So work can't stop, work continues, and the necessary changes occur in the appropriate timing. If we can't come to some agreement after that work is completed, like we would typically through a reconciled change order, then at least at the end of the project, we will have a final value negotiated, and we will then come up with what the actual cost. You'll provide receipts and whatever documentation is necessary to justify the cost of the change order. So it's important to understand these four pieces. They are a large portion of, I think, of a lot of people's concerns for contractors. The consultants are involved in all of this as well, and they become a vital portion of double checking costs, prices, costs, time, and the effect upon the work. Next, please. So the change orders, there are contractor responsibilities. I've touched on a couple of them. They must be submitted in a timely manner. If you know that there is a portion of the work you're undertaking and it's not on the documentation for the bid documents, the construction documents, or you take it upon yourself to do it, you must recognize that you are at risk of not being reimbursed for it. So prior approval of change orders or the change order process are required prior to conducting work. They need to be submitted in a timely manner. There's a time frame set forth in the agreements, depending upon the agreement, for how soon you must report those change orders when they're discovered. We also ask the contractor to describe what causes the need for a change order. Why are we here? Is there something missing in the documents? Was there a conflict in the documents? But we want an itemized breakdown and complete backup documentation as much as you can provide, as well as any changes in the project duration anticipated in accordance with the CPM schedule. And I mentioned this earlier, I'll say it again because it's so important. The contractor, not unlike a consultant reviewing their subconsultant's work before it's issued to us, the contractor must review and evaluate the subcontractor's request for a change order for validity and for right sizing, and prior to presentation to the county and the AE consultant. And of course, as I said before, the process includes the review and analysis by the consultant and the county prior to approval. Next, please. So at substantial completion, I think it's very important. We are a little bit different than many others. We have, while many people anticipate that certificate of completion or certificate of occupancy alone provides a substantial completion, our documents, especially our specifications division 1, do not follow that rule. Because we're long-term owners, We cannot tell you the importance of as-built documentation, warranties, operations and maintenance, information, test and balance reports, building commissioning, and record documents. We use these on a regular basis. Our facilities management division looks to own these buildings for 50 years or more. So we will be going back to this well quite often. As a result, it has an outsized importance in our substantial completion. There are several things that need to happen before substantial completion can occur. And so I'm just going to tell you, if you are working in it for a county construction project, pay attention to specifications division 1 for a detailed process description for how all the substantial completion closeout is arrived at and final closeout. So in essence, there's quite a list here. All of these things many of these things are submitted in a draft form prior to requesting substantial completion inspection. So before we'll even do a punch list, these documents, these items must be turned over. Some of them will be in a draft form. For example, you can expect that warranties can't be tied down until we know the substantial completion date. So we're looking for the draft warranties. The dates may need to be filled in. And final cleaning should be completed. And in reality, you should not be requesting substantial completion unless you have a minor list of things that still need to be completed on the project. Next, please. So that concludes our presentation. I think we finished rather earlier than we thought we did. So we might have gone a bit quickly through some of these things. So if you have questions, we would love to take them. And of course, it doesn't have to just be limited to this material that we presented today. We recognize that our construction management division doesn't take a lot of outside vendors coming in. We do that to maintain our integrity, our appearance of, and maintain not only our appearance, but maintain our ability to evenly evaluate consultants and contractors for future and upcoming jobs. So this is an opportunity for you to ask questions. So Rachel and I are here for you.
I believe there may be some comments in the chat, but we'll ask participants if they'd please type their questions in the Q&A box. While we're waiting to get any questions back, thank you so much, Rachel and Jeff. Really valuable information. You brought up some topics that our small businesses and our certified firms are frequently asking. So I'm hoping that everybody got the information. It's great. And that means there's no questions because it was delivered so well. But we'll give it a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've reviewed the chat. I don't see any specific questions, but looks like there's one in Q&A right now.
How long do the change orders take to be approved? Well, that's a good question. And I guess part of that, so that starts at the source. It begins with the subcontractors who make up the change order. Obviously, the kinds of backup and documentation that are provided to justify the cost are critical to a quick approval. So I can't tell you how many times we get change order requests, simply state a lump sum number, a profit and overhead, and a cost. And we can't work with that. Unfortunately, that is not enough to help us justify. As I said, we're a public agency. We're spending public dollars. The citizens of Broward County pay for us to make sure that we spend their money properly. So in order to justify to ourselves, to our auditors, and to the citizens of Broward County, we have to have some backup, some itemization of cost. So beginning with that step, if that is performed, the contractor then looks at that and agrees with that price, or agrees that this work is not already included in the contract documents that they bid, then they come to us. Our consultant reviews those. Typically, we ask for a 14-day turnaround. We often get those sooner than that. And then at the same time, the county is reviewing it. If we find anything that we have questions about, we quickly kick those back immediately to the contractor, or at least as soon as we possibly can, so that those answers can be provided in the meantime while we're completing our review. Granted, if you don't provide enough information up front, then we don't get very far with our review. If all the proper information is provided, we can do this rather quickly. Getting a change order executed depends on the value of the change order. There are 3 levels of approval. Typically, up to $500,000 in change orders on a single change order can be approved at the Public Works Department director's level. Anything beyond a $500,000 change order, which we surely don't look forward to, but those have to go to the board for approval. At up to 50,000, I think maybe it's 100,000 now. The contract administrator, who is Ariadne Musara for construction management, she's the director, has the authority to sign those change orders. So the process can be very quick. Typically, I would say if we really truly need to get something done in a hurry, you'll see a very quick turnaround, perhaps as short as 2 to 3 weeks. Change orders, of course, do affect the value of your work. So they're also shipped through purchasing division to add to your purchase order. So they will, or to deduct from it if it's a savings. So hopefully that answers your question. I'd like to give you a blanket answer, but again, depending upon the complexity of the work, it varies. Rachel, do you have anything you want to add, or no? Okay. How are purchase orders usually sent? Email or regular mail? Rachel, you want to take that?
Yeah, the POs will be dispatched directly to the email of the contact that the county has on file through the purchasing division. So if at any time there's any changes with, I guess I'm going to tie this in real fast. If any company name change or position email changes, please always contact the county. You can always contact me for any of our contracts, and I can work directly with the purchasing division. So they will send it automatically. You'll get a copy, and then we will also get a copy, and that will trigger us to issue the notice to proceed and then proceed with your project.
Material escalation prices. How do MEPs be addressed with your office on long-term projects prior to completing negotiations? So, okay, so I'm going to assume that is from the contractor's perspective. So here's what we've been doing recently, and as we all know, escalation in the industry has been really volatile over the last 3 years. It seems to have settled down a little bit. We're looking at, I think we had 6% last year. We're looking at around 5% this coming year, or perhaps less. But certainly we've all been burned. The county's agreements don't allow for escalation. So this is why I said earlier on, and I really truly mean this, when you're bidding work for the county, understand that escalation is not a part of the cost that we can actually entertain later on. We ask you to look into your own crystal ball, make your best guess at what that might be, and bid your project to that point of when you're going to actually secure those pieces of equipment. Now, when we're working with managing general contractors, where we actually do have someone we can talk to before the bidding is complete, excuse me, we'll often speak to methodologies to pre-purchase materials, whether under a tax savings plan or some other methodology, to try to secure those long lead item pieces like generators, main distribution panels, and the like up front, chillers also, so that we can establish what those prices are, get those on board, and lock in the prices early, so later fluctuations in costs don't affect us. I don't know if that answers your question. Yeah, you're welcome. We keep seeking methodologies to try to stay up with what's happening in the industry, and Our flexibility is sometimes pressed, but wherever we can, and we do have to abide by our contracts. We at Construction Management Division don't have the ability to override our contracts, but we do have methodologies to make good business cases, and sometimes we can be successful. Is there a website where we can see the county's payments to the contractor? I don't know if that's a public document. It can be made public. So certainly anything can be requested under the public information request. I don't think we post payments to the contractors on a public site for a variety of reasons. However, if you are interested in that information, you could, as I said, request those documents. They are all available. They are not hidden, but I don't think we post them on a website at this point. Good question. These are all good questions.
Okay, I don't see anything else queued up. And I can piggyback on that last question, Jeff. OESBD is in the process of obtaining a compliance management software system. It's called, well, we don't have it on board yet, so I won't say the name, but it's expected to interface with a lot of areas and does have the ability or functionality to share and report payments when they're made to the prime and ask subs to verify in real time. So once that's in place, that should help significantly. I don't think there's anything else queued up in
There's another
There's
question.
one more
Oh, there
here.
is, okay. I'm sharing, so I don't want to move my screen.
That's okay. How many copies of the pay app are required to submit? So typically we look for 3 hard copies and an electronic copy. We keep trying to get away from hard copies wherever possible, but in fact, our processing is all done electronically in here at the office. But that doesn't mean that there aren't those agencies that still ask for a hard copy. But wherever possible, we're reducing the number of them because as you might anticipate, some pay applications are, a good inch thick and with all the backup documentation, depending upon the type of agreement that we have. Certainly a hard bid agreement, you don't have to provide near the documentation that you do for a managing general contractor, where we see all of the subcontractors' bills immediately.
Okay, Vanetta, could you just confirm that there are no questions in the chat for us and that we've cleared everything in the Q&A box?
I do not see any further questions in the Q&A area. And I'm going back through the chat. We just had some nice comments and some nice engagement with networking. We do have, I just want to say, Bill Carlton notes great presentation, particularly the closeout part. Thanks for recognizing that draft documents are sometimes appropriate for a substantial completion. So thank you for that comment, Bill. And I see there's one more question in the Q&A area.
Sure. The question is, can architects participate in multiple projects without conflict of interest? Yes, they can. In fact, one of the things that, we spoke maybe at some length or maybe not enough length for your liking on fixed agreements and the continuing term agreements. The continuing term agreements right now reside with 3 architects, and those 3 architects, I guess each one is probably performing several projects at the same time of different types. And there is no conflict with them performing on the continuing term agreement as well as securing an occasional fixed agreement for larger projects. So yes, you can. Where we run into issues sometimes are in situations where the design is established, or I should say the design criteria is established by one architectural firm, and that same firm tries to produce the design. That is not allowed according to CCNA. The design criteria professional, if you look at the statute 255-187 that was stipulated there, you'll see what some of the limitations are on what you can and can't do that way. Our purchasing division does get a little squirrely about that as well. but typically there's no conflict. And the same is true for contractors. So if we have good contractor who is continuing to perform well, ensuring their ability to get future work by performing some of these things that we pointed out to you today, then we're more than happy to award them additional work whenever possible, especially in the MGC qualifications-based arena. If it's hard bid, that's a little different. We're looking at best pricing, and that's a different animal, as you all well know. But we do have some firms that we do not wish to do work with in the future, and those firms are barred by purchasing if that's the case, if we had a really bad experience. So hopefully we have qualified firms that really want to do the work well and do it to their best abilities. You're welcome.
Right.
I think one of the things that I probably should make, since we have a moment,
Sure.
and we're still running the clock here, I think it's important to point out that Rachel, while she sits here smiling, not only is she very good at what she does, but she's also a terrific resource for anyone who wants to work with the county when it comes to putting together proposals, putting together negotiations, trying to get their business side together. She will work very closely with you. She has gone way out of her way, and we've actually gotten a lot of responses from some of the architectural firms in particular who have just thanked us over and over with the ability that she has and the willingness she has to work with you and to find a solution for you so you can move forward with a project. None of us is in this industry to do paperwork. Unfortunately, paperwork is a way of life in the government. And in private sector. I've worked in the private sector for many years, but we certainly do have our share of it. And Rachel is a terrific guidepost and a guide through the process. So if you do have the opportunity to work with us or to negotiate with it, please don't hesitate to contact her. She will be more than happy to assist.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think you've answered everything that's come in through the Q&A, and there have been kudos and compliments on the presentation. So I'll give it one final call if there are any questions remaining. We don't generally have Jeff and Rachel captive like this, so now would be the time.
Well, thank you all very much for attending today. And if you're watching by webinar at a later date, again, you have our emails to reach out to us if you have any additional questions.
Okay, Rachel and Jeff, thank you so much. We really appreciate the information that you shared with us today. It will be recorded, as you said. All the attendees will get an email prompt once it is recorded. It'll be uploaded on the OESBD YouTube page. So look out for that notification. And with that, I'm just going to wrap up today's session with a few housekeeping updates. As we mentioned previously in our last two sessions, Broward County is moving to a new procurement system. It's called BPRO. It's powered by Bonfire, and it's coming in spring. So we're still using Periscope S2G right now. We're going to taper out the agreements that are still in there, complete those solicitations, but you definitely want to get a head start on registering, becoming a registered vendor under BPRO. I'm told if you have a pre-existing BPRO account, if you use your email and password already in BPRO, it should pull over your profile. But go ahead and get a head start on registering. Speaking of procurement, we also have a resource to share. We have a regional marketplace with the South Florida Anchor Alliance. Those are 11 anchors across various industries, government, education, health, various colleges and universities that came together, and they're combining their procurement power. So each anchor on average by themselves will buy goods and services in excess of $1 billion each year. So they've combined everything on this singular platform. So if you become a registered vendor, you're able to see the various solicitations being offered through these 11 anchors. Definitely stay connected with us through our Business Assistance Weekly. It's issued every Wednesday. You'll find hot tips and general information. This was the first, our inaugural semi-annual series for You Have a Contract. Now what? We're going to come back with additional content somewhere around July or August, so keep an eye out for that. And speaking of upcoming events, we've got 2 on the horizon. March 20th at Carver Ranches. It's listening to your business. It's a part of the Kaufman Fast Track Entrepreneurship Workshop. It is free of cost. You'll get some really great information if you're an entrepreneur and you need a little bit of guidance, a little bit of help in terms of how to direct your company and how to scale to that next step. These are 2 really good sessions for you, March 20th and March 27th. 27th is at Weston Branch Library. And we've got our signature conference for Broward and Beyond Business coming up. It's going to be May 3rd. We won't be at the Signature Grand this year. We're going to be at the Broward County Convention Center. This event is wonderful. It is free. It's a really great opportunity to network as well as gain information. It's taught, various sessions are taught by industry experts and leaders in their field. So go ahead and register free of charge again and join us there. Our second signature conference, the Florida International Trade and Cultural Expo, will be coming back in October. We've had a tremendous attendance every year. It gets bigger and bigger. And if you're interested in global trade, this is definitely the event for you. So go ahead and register. This is also free of cost. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you soon again with the next installation of our semi-annual series. Have a great day. Jeff and Rachel, thank you so much.